Records are not set in stone at the Granite Games. A pair of monster lifts steal the show in Minnesota. Perfection was on display in South Africa as a pair of games vets and an up-and-coming team sweep their events. We recap day one at the Granite Games and the Fittest in Cape Town next on Game Central. Hi everybody, welcome to another edition of Game Central as we recap day one of week 2 of the 2021 Noble CrossFit Games semifinals. I'm Sean Woodland with former CrossFit Games competitor and current seminar staff member Wes Pyatt. First of all, welcome to the dark side. You are now leaving the competition world and entering the media world. Yes. Happy to have you on board, man.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Do you feel a little more evil?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, good. That's how you're supposed to feel when you are on the media side. You have been on the competition side before. The semifinals mirror what we used to have with the regionals. That was a pressure-packed environment. When there are only 5 spots available at the games, how do you manage that stress of, if I don't perform now, I'm done?
Yeah, for sure. If we look at the games is really an endurance event. You can kind of pick where you're going to, do well in an event. You can pick some events that you need to hang back on. But when it comes to regionals or semifinals that we're looking at now, it really is show up or go home, because the whole goal is to get that jersey with your name on the back, right? And so every event matters.
Yeah. Day one of individual competition is presented by Ram Trucks, the 2021 Motor Trend Truck of the Year. Visit ram.com to learn more. 2 semifinal events going on this weekend, the Granite Games and the Fittest in Cape Town. We're going to start with the Granite Games here in North America, taking place in Eagan, Minnesota at the Minnesota Vikings training facility. It's a gorgeous facility. 6 events for the individuals, 5 men, 5 women going on to the CrossFit Games, and then 3 men and 3 women going on to the last chance online qualifier. 2 events on tap for the individuals today, the 1 rep max snatch, the 2018 flashback event, and then in event 2, they broke out the dumbbells and they ran. That was a pretty grueling event. We'll have more on that one in a second. But it was a record-setting day at the Granite Games. And let's start with Anthony Davis. In the 1 rep max snatch event, he goes out and he starts with 295 on the barbell. He would eventually hit 340. That's the heaviest lift we have ever seen in the snatch in a CrossFit competition.
Let's put this in perspective really quick, Sean. When I competed in 2013, we had the clean and jerk event, which Asia Bartow and Lucas Parker went on to tie for first place. And guess what they got on the clean and jerk? 355. This guy just snatched 15 pounds under what we were clean and jerking in 2013. But I think more impressively was to watch him miss his first 295 snatch and then come back and go, you know what I should do instead? I should just power this bad boy. Power snatches 295 at the start, and just mind-boggling what we're doing.
It obviously wins the event with 340 pounds, but that was the first record that fell. The other one was earlier in the day, and it came in the team competition. Christine Middleton from Ocean State's Finest clean and jerked 265. That's the heaviest clean and jerk that we have seen in a women's competition. And they win that event, and as we have seen in the past, just winning that one of those first 2 events, that is huge moving on.
Yeah, absolutely. If we look back to the Mid-Atlantic qualifier, we saw last week On Track's women actually won that strength event, which put them on the podium or their track to the games. And so it'll be exciting to see if this clean and jerk, which was a record, can help put Ocean State's Finest on the podium at the end of this week.
Chase Ingram and Tommy Marquez called the action all weekend long there in the Granite Games. They called day 1, and they had a front row seat to what Anthony Davis was able to pull off, and they have more on what took place in day 1 in the men's competition.
Thank you, guys. What a first day of competition we've had here at the 2021 Granite Games, especially on the men's side. Let's talk about Anthony Davis. He's not a one-trick pony when it comes to the snatch. In fact, he was quite the thoroughbred in that event number 2.
Yeah, our first time seeing Anthony Davis on the CrossFit competition floor in a few years after a hiatus for weightlifting. Well, shows up and hits a new record as far as the heaviest snatch ever in CrossFit competition. But you know what? Like you said, Chase, I think he impressed everybody with the way he showed up in event number 2. But it all started with that 340-pound snatch, really kind of lighting this stadium on fire. And then in the thruster run with 100 points in his back pocket already, set the early pace. One of the few athletes we saw lead wire to wire in this event, where we saw a ton of athletes fall by the wayside as a result of a fast pace to start. despite the fact that he had to compete against some talented athletes that he didn't get to throw down side by side with in the later heats, his finish was good enough for a top 5, and for an athlete at 5'9", 225, seeing him run like that, certainly impressive and showcases why he was one of the top young talents just a few years ago.
And he did it out of heat number 1. I couldn't imagine what he would have been able to put together if he was in the third and final heat. 2 of the athletes we talked about coming in, that's Chandler Smith and Saxon Panchik. How'd they stack up today?
Well, they showed why they're some of the favorites to potentially walk away with the top overall spot in the Granite Games this weekend. Now, starting with Saxon Panchik, just consistency across the board. That has become synonymous with the Panchik last name. Starting that first event, takes 5th in the snatch, just keeping it between the buoys, and then really lights it on fire in the final event. A 3rd place finish, a pair of top 5s. That should probably put him in 2nd behind Davis, just a few points shy. And then Chandler Smith ties his PR with a 305 snatch, and then has another top 10 finish to close out the day. So far, so good from those top athletes.
Not just the top athletes, but the field in total from the individuals, men, women, and teams. It's been quite an exciting day of competition, and that's just the first day. We can't wait for the next 2. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Chase and Tommy. Overall standings for the men, Anthony Davis better be careful. The Minnesota Vikings might throw a helmet and some pads on that guy and make him try out. They're practicing across the street. Saxon Panchik, he sits in 2nd, followed by Tim Paulson, just 12 points back of Saxon. Chandler Smith there in 4th place, and then right now it's Nick Matthew with the 5th and final spot at the CrossFit Games. Let's talk about Saxon Panchik and Chandler Smith here for a second. Saxon, 2 top 5 finishes there in those first 2 events. He really looks like he's starting to get to the next level.
Yeah, for sure, Sean. We're actually really seeing 4 to 5 years of training and his age all coming together at the best time, and we're going to see him really start to make some moves here in the competition.
And then with Chandler Smith, 2nd place, really impressive performance in the 1-rep max snatch, but then a 9th. What does he need to do on day 2?
Exactly what he did with the 1-rep max snatch. Anybody who's been following Chandler long enough knows that his technique usually isn't quite the best, and he showed that he's been working on that weakness. His snatch looked amazing, and if he can continue that over the weekend and continue to keep his technique up there and continue to move, I think he's going to do just fine.
Let's go over to the women's side, where age and experience right now are beating youth and skill. Alessandra Pichelli, she's your overall leader, 180 points. Nicole McGaney is right behind her, 12 points back. Mal O'Brien and Caroline Stanley are tied at 156 points, and then the other youngster, Emma Cary, just 17 years old, she sits in 5th place overall. Woman not on the overall leaderboard right there is Chrissy Eramo O'Connell. She is currently in 12th place. Let's talk about the veterans first. It's Alessandra Pichelli, 2 top 5 finishes on top of the overall leaderboard. Chrissy Eramo O'Connell, she's in 12th. She has some work to do.
Yeah, I'm not really surprised with either of these, to be honest with you. We knew Christy going into that event wasn't going to do too well in the snatch, and she came back and had a pretty decent finish on event 2 with a 6th place finish. Alessandra Pichelli, though, did surprise me on event 2. We expected her to do well in event 1 with the snatch. She's one of the stronger females of the field, but event 2, I didn't expect her to do that well, so she's going to be one to watch this weekend for sure.
Then we go to the teenagers, and you add these 2 women's ages up, and I don't even know if they're as old as Alessandra Pichelli if you do that. But Emma Cary and Mal O'Brien both look great in event 1, but then event 2 rolls around, and Mal O'Brien stole the show. Yeah, that's where we really saw her start to separate herself from the rest of the field. While Emma looked amazing on that first event in the snatch, we saw that her engine kind of caught up to her a little bit on the second one. Even saw her fail a couple thrusters there. But on the other end, Mal O'Brien, oh my goodness, look out for this girl coming. Yeah. She's got games experience underneath her belt. I mean, she trains with one of the strongest men in the entire world with James Townsend. So we know her strength is there. Her engine's obviously there. She's young, so she's gonna recover like nobody's business this weekend. I'm excited to watch her this weekend for sure. She looked downright scary in event number 2. The team standings after 3 events, and it's Omnia. They are ahead of Ocean State's Finest. Talking about what that event win did for Ocean State's Finest. There they are in 2nd place overall. Move Fast Lift Heavy by a point over 8th Day Gym, and right now Timberwolf CrossFit with the 5th and final spot. I love it. They're in 8th place. They were the 3rd ranked team in North America coming out of quarterfinals. What didn't go right for them today? Well, let's take a step back and look at quarterfinals. One of their worst events was the 4-rep max front squat. And if we look at today's events, they were on the heavier side, except for the final event they went through with the Devil's Walk, which had some handstand walking in it. And if we look at tomorrow, we've got some legless rope climbs, some strict handstand push-ups, and if they can come together as a team on that worm DT,
I expect them to slowly start chipping their way up that leaderboard.
Team competition is sponsored by Ramwad. Improve your mobility and athletic performance with Ramwad. Visit ramwad.com for a free 7-day trial. What are you looking forward to watching the most on day 2 in Minnesota?
Oh man, it's got to be Anthony Davis. Holy cow. I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one that thought, okay, wow, great snatch, great first event, but let's see how you fare the rest of the weekend. And then he comes back on event 2 and does amazing. So he's got an engine as well. We do have some gymnastic stuff showing up tomorrow, so we'll see how he fares on that, but he is definitely going to be the one that I'm watching tomorrow.
We go from Minnesota to South Africa, where it is winner take all at the Fittest in Cape Town. We talked about pressure at the top of the show, and that was in an event where 5 people get to go to the games. Now you're talking about a winner-take-all situation. How do you even manage that as an athlete when you're going through that type of competition?
Well, yeah, now it really comes down to not just how well you're doing on the events, but what are you doing in between the events? How are you recovering? How are you warming up? And I think this is where we'll see the veterans start to really separate themselves, because they understand what to do when they're sitting in the back waiting in those corrals for 10 minutes after they've already warmed up and they're cooling back down. They know how to recover when they're at home. And that's really what this is going to come down to, is all those little 1% things that we don't see on the competition floor adding up.
Day 1 of individual competition presented by Ram Trucks, the 2021 Motor Trend Truck of the Year. Visit ram.com to learn more. The Fittest in Cape Town going on in South Africa at the Wood Mill. They have 7 events for the individuals. And again, just 1 qualifying spot to the CrossFit Games. But if you are inside the top 4, your season does continue. 3 men and women moving on to the last chance qualifier. 2 events were held on day number 1, pardon me. 3, 2, 1, go for the men and the women. 3,000 meter bike erg, a lot of work on the machines after that, and then you had some burpee box jump overs in there as well. And then Friday Night Lights, they roll out the heavy barbells. You start with 150 double unders. The reps go down in the snatches as you move through the event, but the weights go up. The men's overall standings after 2 events, and a theme is going to develop here. On top of the overall leaderboard, Jason Smith, he is a perfect 2 for 2. He is 24 points up on Ruan Duvenage for that qualifying spot to the CrossFit Games. For the women, Dina Swift, she is perfect on day number 1, 200 points out of a possible 200 points for her, and she leads Michelle Basnet by 16 points. And finally, the team standings, the Eikestad Mighty Oaks, they came out of the quarterfinals as the top-ranked team, and they are proving why. They go 2 for 2 as well, 200 points for them as they take the overall lead heading into day number 2. Jason Smith is a guy that we have seen a couple of times at the CrossFit Games, and he did very well in the quarterfinals there in Africa. He is a Masters athlete, 36 years old, been to the CrossFit Games 2 times. He had been trying forever to get in, and he finally qualified in 2017, and he finished 10th that year, and he is looking to get back for a 3rd time now out of the Fittest in Cape Town. Both he and Dina Swift, perfect on day number 1. What impressed you the most about what they were able to accomplish?
Look at the first 2 events that they went through. Completely different events. The first event, we have an endurance event. And the second event, we have a strength event. So you would expect to see different athletes taking first place on those, but to see Jason and Dina both come out on top should really scare the rest of the field.
If athletes are going to catch them on day 2, where might be some opportunities for them to make up some points?
Yeah, it's really going to come down with Jason. How well does he recover? He's 36, I'm 35. I know how I feel after a hard day of training. Yeah, and so we'll see if he's able to recover on day 2 and day 3, or if some of those young guns can actually kind of sneak up on him as the volume accumulates. But with Dina, I'm excited to see how she does with the gymnastic stuff we have coming up tomorrow. She did go to the CrossFit Games in 2019 as the fittest in her country, but got taken out after the first event. And so we'll see if maybe she has a little bit of hole in her gymnastics movements tomorrow, and can one of those other girls step in there?
To the team side, where the Eikestad Mighty Oaks, they also win the first 2 events, dominant in the quarterfinals. not missing a beat as they get to the Fittest in Cape Town. I know a lot has to happen, but it is pretty safe to say that this is the team that is going to the games.
Yeah, Sean, momentum is huge when it comes to these things. They're going to be at their home after this event, hanging out, having a great time, you know, smiling, laughing, going to bed happy, and they're going to carry that momentum into day 2 and possibly day 3. So barring any type of a crazy injury or something like that, I think we'll see them on top.
The team competition is sponsored by ROMWAD. Improve your mobility and athletic performance with ROMWAD. Visit romwad.com for a free 7-day trial. What are you looking forward to the most as we head into day 2 at the Fittest in Cape Town?
I'm just excited to see if Jason and Dina can hang on. But honestly, I want to see a race. I don't want to see 2 people run away with this thing. I want to see that somebody could come in and give these guys a run for their money. And so I'm looking to see, does Jason recover well on day 2 and day 3? And does Dina maybe have some holes that we didn't know that she has?
As we move through the semifinals, we continue to get closer to the 2021 Noble CrossFit Games. Tickets are on sale now. You can head to games.crossfit.com for information on that. And if you want to volunteer and be part of the action behind the scenes, you can also go to games.crossfit.com for information on that as well. That is going to do it for us for today. We will have more coverage tomorrow as we recap day 2 of both the Granite Games and the Fittest in Cape Town. For Wes Pyatt, I'm Sean Woodland. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will talk to you guys tomorrow.